Would you like a healthier brain? I think we would all take that if it was offered to us. Well, you can, and you can start today. You're listening to the Begin Within Health Show with Nate Slager. For more, go to beginwithin.fit/podcast, or to enroll right now in our flagship coaching program, go to beginwithin.fit/coaching. My guest today is David Amerland. He is the author of the book Built to Last, and that book is available right now. You can get your hands on a copy. We are going to talk about it today in my interview with him. We're also going to talk about fitness, motivation, and brain health. So listen up. You're going to really enjoy this conversation. He knows his stuff. He's been around the block, and he's in great shape. He's going to share with you some of his secrets. Let's get into it. Here's my interview with David Amerland.
I was 13. My parents were moving around a lot in Australia, changing states, changing schools, no friends, always an outsider. You get stressed, you get really angry in your head, and nobody can understand you. You're like this kid that doesn't fit. So you have two paths to take here. Either you go out and hurt somebody, you become that kind of kid, or you hurt yourself and you become that other kind of kid.
Okay.
And entirely by mistake, I sort of found a martial arts club and I liked it and I joined and I thought, oh, this is really cool. And then I channeled all that into that and it felt great. There was, the anger in my head went away and the noise in my head dialed down.
Yeah. Was that because you were hurting others or because they were hurting you?
No, it was neither of those things. I mean, theoretically, on the face of it, you say, yeah, that's what it was, right? But essentially, you go into martial arts and you can't change physically if you don't change internally. So the outside comes second and the inside comes first. And although you don't sort of articulate it like that at the time, it's an inevitable sort of path. If you stick at it, essentially, you have to force yourself to keep on going when you're tired. You have to force yourself to be disciplined when something is difficult and you can't do it, and you have to do it again and again and again and again until it actually becomes yours. So you develop focus and discipline and patience, and it transforms your inner world. Mm-hmm. And then that allows you to transform your outer world. And then that feeds back in itself, right? Because you see yourself changing, you become more confident who you are. Then your thought processes change. You're able to handle difficult situations or novel situations with a greater sense of security, a greater sense of confidence. And that changes everything again. So it kind of becomes this kind of self-feeding cycle that keeps taking it to new levels every time. Mm-hmm. And that's how I got into it.
Nice.
And I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah, man, I love that. I love the way you explain the cycle. And of course, on the Begin Within Health Show, that's what we are really trying to capture is the things that are necessary internally in order to get the external results that so many people are after. So so what happened next for you? So you're 13, you got started there. Were you just was health and fitness and helping others? Was that what it was all about for you ever since then, or what happened next?
Initially, yeah, I mean, great question. Initially, you're young, right? So it's always focused on yourself because you're growing up and you don't know who you are. And you're trying to define yourself and trying to find your place in the world. So for me, the anchoring part always was fitness. If I was stressed, I'd go for a run. If something was difficult, I'd work it out physically first and then I'd work it out mentally.
Okay.
So that became for me the safety valve through which I basically decompressed and learned to think clearly. So over the years, that became my sort of go-to thing for restructuring myself. The fact that I had learned discipline and focus allowed me to become more analytical in my thinking. So that helped me. I trained as a chemical engineer. I got to become Taekwondo champion a few times. I got black belt in two Taekwondo styles. I've got a black belt in karate. So I've done a lot of things. I've done other sports as well. And that kind of becomes part of who you are eventually. So now I can't think of myself in any other way that is sort of separated from the physical aspect.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. So many accomplishments. And when you're tracing it all back, it came as a result of those
Yeah.
early building blocks.
Yeah, and essentially, I mean, that shows what we now know, that essentially your motivation is always emotional. So if you want to start something and you want to stick to that thing, which will lead you to where you think you want to go to, if you don't feel it, if there's no emotional connection, there's no go not there's never going to be any kind of discipline, there's never going to be any kind of consistency. You will drop off after a while because regardless of how you start, at some point things will get difficult. Life will get messy.
Hmm.
The world gets complicated. So being able to actually do something consistently means that the value to you at an emotional level is something which is dear to you personally.
Mm.
And that's what it became for me. But to take it
Yeah.
into a broader picture, if we talk about fitness in general, we take anybody from anywhere and we tell them it's important to be fit, it's important to be lean, you have to be healthy in order to enjoy your life and be happy. And they'll agree 1000%.
Yeah.
Where the disconnect is, they don't feel it. They haven't made that emotional connection yet. The
Okay.
moment they make it, then they're capable of being consistent, they're capable of being diligent, they're disciplined, and they will do whatever it takes to actually get where they need to in terms of their physical health and
Wow.
their general happiness.
Yeah. Okay. So, my next question for you is there a way to, how do I ask this? When it comes to that emotional piece, because it's
Mm.
so important,
Yes.
from your perspective, I guess from your opinion, is there a way that we can create that? Is there a way that we can
Mm.
manufacture it, or
Yes.
is it just like an attraction that just has to kind of happen all on its own?
No, no, no. There's definitely a way. And let's start with an example.
Yeah.
Suppose tomorrow you go to a doctor and he tells you, "I've got 6 months. You've got 6 months left to live." And that's it, right? Your life is suddenly short. You can think, wow, so many things I haven't done, and they become really important to you. So
Yes.
many things, places I hadn't seen. I've got to go there. He tells you, however, if you do this thing and it's really difficult, you might get another 5 years. What's your first thought? You really want those 5 years now. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter how difficult that thing is. Why? Because we have an emotional connection to it.
Hmm.
And what's changed? Well, your perspective. Your emotional connection to that is in relation to the fact that, hey, life is suddenly short and you value the things you haven't done and you really want to do them. You really want to enjoy your time with somebody. You really want to go and see some place that you haven't seen. You really want the chance to do something which you always wanted to do, you always kept putting off, but now you really have to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's remove the doctor now and let's remove the life-threatening situation. What is really valuable to you? What do you value in your life? If you start working those things out, then you begin to make the emotional connections you need in order to who you are, to what's important to you, and how long you want to be able to enjoy them for. If you say to yourself, I imagine myself 50 years from now with my partner, and we're going all over the world. Okay, you're not ill, you're old, but you're not incapable, you're older, so you're not frail. So suddenly you realize that it's possible. But in order to get to that picture, you got to start now because that's what you're building
Yeah.
towards. And if that's important to you then the now is not a problem. You'll go to the gym every time if you have to go to the gym. You'll train at home if you can't go to the gym. You'll have a contingency plan if
Hmm.
your normal training plan fails and you can't, for whatever reason, life gets messy, things happen. But you say, okay, I'm going to pull off 10, 20, 30 push-ups, 20, 30 squats, and I'm done. And that's great. It keeps you revving.
Hmm.
So it's that kind of thinking, but in order to put that thinking in place and then actually action it, so you do the things so you do the things that you actually plan to do, you need to feel it inside you.
Hmm.
And you start feeling it by creating that value to yourself.
Nice. Do you feel like, I mean, I think the doctor example, I love it because I think we all, yeah, absolutely. If the doctor said I got to work out in order to live 5 years longer or die in 6 months, I'm gonna work out. I get it.
Yes.
Do you feel like, and I feel like that doctor, that conversation with the doctor, like that might be all I'll need. I'm good. But
Yes.
uh, as we're kind of staying in touch with our future self, the dreams, the aspirations, the desires that we have for the future, um, is that similar? Is that kind of like if you really get in touch with it, it's a one,
Mm.
you're good, or is it something that you feel like we have to revisit from time to time?
Well, that's a great question. And the thing to understand is that who we are right now, you and I, is going to be different to who we're going to be 5 years from now. We're going to be changed slightly different
Yeah.
physically, a little bit, mentally, quite a lot, psychologically, quite a lot, emotionally, significantly. So these are the things that make us who we are: our memories, our emotions, our knowledge, our capabilities, and our skill sets. And they change all the time. So when we plan for the future, sometimes we fail to adequately take into account the fact that how we feel now is not always going to be how we're going to feel in the future. So we need to have certain values which are immutable. I mean, for instance, I'm going to use myself as an example. I know I'm changing because I'm getting older. As I'm getting older, my capabilities are going to degrade somewhat. But at no stage in my life do I see myself being incapable. I never want that to happen.
Hmm.
So that is so tied into the identity of who I am, to be able to be physically independent, mentally sharp, to be able to do what I want when I want to, that it allows me to overcome whatever emotional or physical obstacles I face on a day-to-day basis, which stop me from training. And I overcome those and I train because I don't want to go into that future thinking, oh, I want to go for a 5 mile hike and I can't. That's terrible. Suddenly you're trapped inside your own body. Or to
Hmm.
feel that the sharpness of your mind is declining because your health of your body is declining and there's nothing you can do about it. That's also terrible.
Hmm.
So those things are of great value to me personally. And every person will have a different kind of value for the future. Some people want to see their grandkids grow up. Others want to sort of enjoy the future of their kids. Others want to go around the world with their partner, whatever it is. But the consistent part of it is that the emotional connection is there. And when it's there, the value is there.
Nice, nice. And I like that you mentioned identity, connecting it to who I am today. Who I am in the
Yeah.
future connects to who I am right now. And that's going to require who I am right now gets to the gym or eats
Yes.
the veggies, whatever it is, right?
Does the work. Yeah.
Yeah, does the work. Awesome. I want to talk a little bit about the Built to Last, the book,
Okay.
Built to Last. And just in a few minutes, if you, because I know the story is interesting, we've talked about this already. Where that came from, the book that you've written that's available now. How is it that you got started putting this together?
Right. Okay. That's an interesting story because I didn't intend to write this book. But what happens, I've got this standing date with a friend. We sort of get together once a week. And I've got a gym in my house, and he has a gym at his house. But once a week we get together and we train together for a couple of hours. And it's a social thing. I mean, we do whatever we have to do. We push each other a little bit, so we train a little bit harder because there's two of us.
Nice.
And also we talk. And through this talking, we started covering things. Sometimes he'd come to me with some idea he got from an article he read on fitness or health, or he'll bring up a talking point on some kind of fitness myth making the rounds that is seen on social media. And I'll come back with studies, right? And say, this is study here, this study there, and this, debunks that. And now we know how these things connect. And science shows us that, we can do this as we get older. We can do that. And he's 50, right? So he's about 10 years younger than me. So we did all that. And out of that, well, we got built to last, right? The spark
Nice.
of it was there. And my friend is George. I dedicated the book to him.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. And in the book, as I was looking at it, I couldn't help but so it's chapter 3. It's called The Hidden Organ.
Hmm.
And I could tell from the subheads that we're talking about the brain. Would you mind kind of explaining, David, the how you got that name, the hidden organ? Like why
Mm.
why why is the brain the hidden organ? And I know that it's going to lead us to talking about how exercise impacts our brain, but I want to let you talk on that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, we can't do anything physically that doesn't affect the mental part of us. And whatever we do with our body, our brain is fully enmeshed and integrated into it. So basically, the disconnect comes from the fact the brain has no nerves, right? We don't feel it get tired. You can read
Mm,
a book and it can be a really hard book, and you may lose your concentration. You think, oh, I'm going to put it down now. But you don't actually get a sense of the brain fatiguing.
mm,
You don't get a sense of the brain getting tired if you're lifting something. It actually does, right? Because if you're lifting, weights, the brain sends signals that activate the motor neurons in the muscles. And we know that the central nervous system experiences fatigue after a heavy weight session for up to 2 days after the weight session has ended. So we can't quite lift the same amount of weight that we did the first time around if we went really hard. Because we don't have that reporting mechanism back from the brain, we tend to forget that it's there. We don't think we're actually
okay.
training it. But it plays a role in everything. And there's some multidimensionality here, right? We can say the brain is directly linked through the central nervous system. I just mentioned weightlifting, whatever we do, like martial arts or speed or strength or endurance, there's a component, a direct physical component of the brain being engaged in that.
Hmm.
But there's also a neurochemical component. We know that the brain and how it perceives the fatigue points, and perceptual fatigue is a safety mechanism the body has so that we don't hurt ourselves. So, you get to the point where you feel you're getting tired and you want to quit. And unless you have a really strong reason not to quit, you will stop.
Hmm.
But the brain can actually create scenarios which allow you to go past that mechanism. And then your performance can be exceptional. You say, well, how did I pull that off? So we know
Nice.
there's a neurochemical element. We know the brain has the ability to basically create imagery, which creates scenarios which are fantastical for the mind. They don't actually exist except in our imagination, but they directly impact our performance. And there's a couple of examples. There was a study carried out in 2020 by the University of Essex, where they basically took sprinters and they told them, it took three groups of sprinters. One group was going to do what they had to do, but they're going to get to try as hard as possible because they've been measured on time. And the other two groups, they were given specific imagery to use at the startup point. Now, sprinting is an incredibly unforgiving sport. You
Mm,
only have 100 meters. You have, on average, about 10, 11 seconds. Every meter and every second, every microsecond counts. So any mistake you make, you're going to feel it. And in order to improve, you have to spend months and months and months of trying to fix your start or fix your posture or try to coordinate your limbs so you basically slow down the slowest, which makes you the fastest at the end. So
got it.
they gave them imagery and they said, look, some of them said, think of yourself as an exploding cannonball, or think of yourself as a rocket taking off from the starter blocks, or think of yourself as a train, kind of cartoonish and
Hmm.
ridiculous.
Hmm.
But they focused on that and they had a 3% improvement in their performance.
Wow. Over those that were just like, hey, just run as fast as you can, do your best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So you think, okay, how did that happen? Well, a lot of theories on that, right? One is that perhaps the imagery we use allows us to unlock neurochemical reserves, which we haven't felt before and we haven't seen. Another one is that perhaps, by focusing on the imagery they gave them and working that in their mind, they
Hmm.
took the brain's focus away from fatigue. So the perceived fatigue point was dampened
Mm.
down a little bit, and they
Hmm.
were able to push past it that way.
Well,
A third is that by focusing on that, they basically at the start they had lower baseline activation, so the heart rate wasn't as hard. Their sort of body wasn't working as hard because they weren't as anxious,
hmm.
because they were calm and relaxed thinking about that.
Yeah.
They were able to conserve energy at the beginning, which proved helpful at the end.
Hmm.
So, you have all these things, but whichever one, and we can't really test it accurately because, you can't dissect a human being while they're alive.
Right.
And while they're dead, they're no use to us.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, it shows how important the brain is on something
Right.
as critical as that, right? And the
Yeah.
brain is important in everything we do.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I love that. That's such a cool example. Very cool. I should have used it this morning when I was doing my sets to failure. Could have got a few more. reps in.
Yeah, well, you should try it next time,
Um,
just think of yourself as a different animal sometimes helps.
yeah. Oh, cool. We'll give it a try. Try it with my clients too.
Okay. Okay.
Um, let's talk just briefly, if we could, about
Yeah.
uh, some of the benefits that come to the brain then as a result of fitness and exercise.
Okay. All
Would
right.
you be willing to do that? We'll just talk about,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
'cause
Yeah.
obviously we know there are some cognitive benefits, but it's nice to be reminded of
There
them. And you
there are a
mentioned
lot.
that, right?
Okay.
The person I am
Yep.
in the future has a sharp mind. I have a
Yep.
great memory in the future. So that means right now I want to make sure that I'm benefiting it to the full.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
what are some of the connections there?
There's a multidimensionality of benefits even in that. Okay. So let's start with the absolute basic. The moment you exercise your body, you know, um, blood flow, oxygen content in the bloodstream begins to go up. Your
Mhm.
cells are better oxygenated. You get neurochemicals in your bloodstream, which activate specific neurotransmitters, which affect mood. You feel good about yourself. You're more tolerant to pain, etc., etc. And that actually makes you feel good. So it's almost like, one of these nootropic drugs, but it's exercise, right? So it
Mhm.
changes your mood, it changes your body, it changes your ability to actually connect. And if you do that consistently, then the baseline characteristics of your brain and body are going to change. So if you go to the gym consistently and lift, if you go for a run consistently, if you take a dancing class, if you go walking on your own, so basically you're changing your baseline characteristics. So you're going to be calmer, your heart rate is going to go down a little bit, your resting heart rate, your blood pressure is going to drop. And then there
Mhm.
are other attendant things because inflammation in the body drops. So your overall cell health is going to be better. You're going to have greater margin when it comes to your daily energy. So
Yes.
these are, so you'll be able to think better because, using adenosine triphosphate in your brain, just like in your body. So you're going to have greater energy reserves to deal with a crisis
Mhm.
that, requires critical thinking. But there are other benefits to that. By training the body, we teach the brain to bring in all the different centers together, which coordinate movement in 3D space. I mean, when we
Mhm.
do anything, lift, walk, drive a car, dance, take a martial arts class, whatever it is we do, and something incredible is happening. There's an organ inside our head that is blind. It's relying on basically tiny little portholes to see the outside world.
Mhm.
You can't see on all around us where it is. And yet at all moments, it knows what the body is doing and it knows what it is doing in relation to the rest of the world. So there's an amazing amount of
Yeah.
imagery that goes in that movie in our head
Mhm.
that allows us to know where we are. You can shut your eyes and you can touch the tip of your nose
Mhm.
with your fingertips. How do you do that?
Yeah.
When you can't see where your nose is and you can't see your fingertips.
That's awesome.
So
I love
it's
it.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
So so the brain does that. Okay, so it creates those scenarios. It brings in those imagery centers, which allows us basically in a different scenario to run different scenarios in our head when it comes to decision making, when it comes to business, when it comes to life, when it comes to relationships, you name it.
Mhm.
There's one additional layer now, and this is where we get into grit, motivation, and
Yeah.
willpower. Those things which are higher centers, perhaps. Our tolerance to pain, our tolerance to discomfort, our willingness to basically do something which is difficult because we know that down the road there's going to be some kind of payoff for us.
Mhm.
And we're able to plan that way and defer our gratification for the future and undergo this difficult path now. If we, when we learn to take this physically, and we can go in a sauna, for instance, right? And it goes to 100 degrees. If it's a dry sauna, it's 100 degrees centigrade, it's boiling temperature of water. 15 minutes and you want to go out. And you say to yourself, I'm going to stay another 15 minutes. Okay, what keeps you in that environment for 15 minutes longer? It's that willpower to basically take the discomfort, control your emotions, control your stress levels because it's a stressor, control your body, allow yourself to survive. So your heart rate doesn't go too high, you don't oversweat, you don't overheat, you
Mhm.
come out. And then I guarantee you, if you do that for the rest of your day, nothing can stress you out because your baseline levels are so low now and you're so stable that you meet everything with the equanimity. You're able to
Mm.
handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. That's
So
a good explanation.
these are the benefits, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'll tease my clients, and it reminds me, I have most of them work out in the morning with me, and at whatever point toward the end of the workout when things are really getting tough, I love to remind them this is the hardest part of your day right here, right? It's not
Yes.
everything else is
Yes.
going to be easy the rest of the day. Whatever you're going to
So
be doing.
you're the stressor. I
Yes.
love that. That's brilliant.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, good. Awesome. I love it. I feel like we could just talk forever.
Yeah.
What, as we kind of wrap up, what would be the best way for people to get in touch with you to follow your work, David?
Okay. You can find me on at davidamerland.com. And if you Google me, you'll find all my socials, and that's probably the easiest way.
Yes. Awesome. And then the book, Built to Last, is out
Yes.
there, ready for people to grab it and benefit from those conversations that started in the gym with George, huh?
Absolutely. Yes. Grab a copy. It will change your life, literally. It's not quite what you think it is,
Yeah.
but if you go through it, you will resonate. It'll help you become better than what you are already.
Yeah. No, I've enjoyed reading it so far as well. So thank you. Thanks for
That's
being here
brilliant.
with us, David.
Thank you for having me.
There you go. Get your copy of Built to Last by David Amerland. It's out there. It's available now. I've got a copy. I'm really enjoying it. In particular, I think it's so interesting to dive into how fitness and the brain are connected and why working out regularly is going to benefit our cognitive health, our brain health now and into the distant future, hopefully, for all of us as we work out consistently. I think that's a big check in, but more importantly, we need motivation in order to do that. So, a takeaway for you and me is to do just what we talked about in that interview, to get in touch with the future. It's something that's going to help you and me to stay motivated with our workouts or whatever it is that we need to do in order to make sure that we have the best, most optimal health that we possibly can right now, knowing that it is going to benefit us into the future. So I want you to take a moment, if you would, just sit down and visualize, do some visualization of what you'd like life to be like as you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s. What do you want to be doing? Who do you want to be doing it with? And where are you going to be enjoying life at that point? For most of us, we want to be sharp, we want to be strong, we want to be mobile, we want to be living to the full. As we tap into it, we have a source of motivation, an ongoing source of motivation that's going to help us to know what exactly should we do today in order to get that future outcome. What I want to invite you to do is, if you're willing, take a few minutes and write about it. Write about the future. Where do you want to be 10, 20 years, 30 years from now? That's the time frame that I'd be looking at. I'm 43 now. I'll look ahead 30 years. I'm 73. As things keep going the way they're going, where do I want to be? What do I want life to be like, to look like at that point? What things will I be enjoying? Who will I be enjoying them with? And where will I be? Write about it, if you would. If you'd like to dial it back and make it a little easier, you don't want to sit down and do the journaling. And I would say set a timer for 5 minutes, do some journaling about it. Just tap into that future. Take some time, dial it back a notch. Writing might be too difficult. Have a conversation with someone that you care about where you'd like to be. Hey, I listened to this podcast and he was talking about how we need to, think about the future so that we can make sure we're on track for it. I just, he encouraged us to take a few moments to talk with someone we care about what we want the future to be like. I'd love to do that right now, if you're willing, and see how that is, that conversation. I think if you choose the right person, and I know you will, it's going to be a very valuable conversation, one that's going to benefit you. That's the goal, right? But it's also going to benefit them. And don't just talk, but listen as you do that. And If that's too tough, I would say just take some time to think about it while you're driving to and from work, going to pick up the kids, whatever it is. Take just some time to put some thought into the answers to those questions about the future and see how it affects you. And the big takeaway question then is, with that in mind, what can I be doing? What might I be doing right now in order to make sure that I'm headed in that direction? What might be the best thing for me to make sure that I'm doing right now to make sure that I'm on track for that future that I envisioned? What's your answer? We're doing a little bit of self-coaching here. Coaching yourself. What might I be doing better right now? What might I be doing even better right now in order to make sure that I'm on track? Maybe it's working out. Maybe it's something with nutrition. Maybe it's something with your sleep. Whatever it is, get to work. That was a big message that we took from the conversation I took, right? It's about action. What can I do right now to work on it? Well, what can you do? The answers are endless. The possibilities are infinite, but pick something and work on it. And you're going to benefit right now and in the future. Thanks for being here with me, keeping the Begin Within Health show in the top 5% of all podcasts. I'm so grateful to you for listening, for sharing, for rating and reviewing the show. Thanks so much. I'll talk with you again soon. And until then, keep taking good care of yourself.